Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today I'm doing a review and spotlight on the LAATC, also known as the Republic Dropship from the Star Wars universe. This model was built by Boosker, and the instructions were found on Brickvault's website. So let's get started. So this video is not at all sponsored in any way, shape, or form by Brickvault or anyone else. I'm just a big fan of really awesome mocks like this, and I'm also a really big Star Wars fan, and this was just the perfect thing to add to my collection. I am going to add all of the timestamps in the description for you so you can skip throughout the video, or if you want a chapter by chapter sequence of events, I'm going to be talking about the size and scale of this model along with a overview of all of the details in it. And I'm going to include the personal build experience that I had with this, as well as a few pieces that you should keep in mind if you do decide to build this yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll put the metric dimensions on the screen for you, but the wingspan from tip to tip is about 29 inches wide, and from the tip of the cannons all the way to the rear is just shy of 2 feet at about 23 inches, and the model stands at over 10 inches tall. And since numbers on a screen don't really do this massive model any real justice, I'm going to put a bunch of clips on the screen for you of different things to help convey the scale of it, including a base plate, a modular building, a couple of smaller boxes of Star Wars sets, and a couple other Star Wars models as well, just to hopefully give you guys a better sense of how big this model is and what it looks like when you compare it to sets that you might have in your collection. Some of the more notable comparisons that I'm going to be making in this video today are with the Coruscant Guard gunship that came out in 2023 and the 2013 gunship that came out over 11 years ago at this point. And the Coruscant Guard gunship is slightly scaled down when you compare it to the other two, most definitely the Dropship, but the 2013 gunship is a little bit more in line with scale next to the Dropship. And I think that makes a better comparison when you put them side by side. And so, unfortunately, I do not own the only official LEGO version of this model, which came out back in 2009 along with an AT-OT. And that set is really, really expensive. So that is not, unfortunately, a part of my collection. Not yet, at least. And so, hopefully, one day soon I could add it. But for the time being, these comparisons will have to suffice. And to really put things in perspective, here is a minifig right next to it. And so for this model here, we're going to start at the front and work our way to the back. And I'm going to show you guys all of the awesome details in this model here. And so you can see the color blocking here is used with genuine Lego pieces and snot building techniques all throughout the model, especially in this front area here, which is really, really awesome to see. And it looks really, really good when you compare it to the actual models from the Clone Wars, as well as Star Wars Episode 2 and 3. And this entire section here is built at an angle using hinge plates back here and other connection points inside. This is a print back here, and this area is a tiny bit flimsy, but that is not the end of the world. It is not going anywhere. So that is a pretty good connection point. And then there's more color blocking up here in blue, which is nice to see. There is a removable cockpit, which we will get to in a minute, but I want to just kind of show you guys all of the details of it first. And so let me rotate this around a little bit for you. And so now we're going to get into the side. Pretty much everything that I'm showing you on this side is mirrored on the other side. So I'm going to just kind of give a detailed overview of this side, and then I'll glance over the other side as well. But this section back here, again, uses more color blocking with black, and then the light gray pieces all throughout here, as well as dark gray. And this area is so detailed. There's a lot of greebling on here, and it looks great. They're using binocular pieces, minifig hands in black up here, and all different types of clips and bars and Technic pieces and studs with the hole in them and stuff like that. And this is a pneumatic tube, which we will get to later on when I get to the section about talking about pieces and rarity and what the instructions say and all of that stuff. But also, as you guys can see on this model here, this portion of the fuselage is a lot thinner when compared to this top portion up here. As you can see, this is nearly 8 studs wide, shown by all of these 1x1 pieces. It's nearly 8 studs wide, and when you come down to here, it's just over 4 studs wide down here. So the designer brought this in to make it a lot thinner, which is also a lot more accurate to the in-universe model. A lot of other designs that I've seen have not been able to do that and replicate that properly. So that is really awesome to see. And there's more color blocking down here with the blues and all of the other white pieces as well. And this is really, really awesome. There's minimal gapping in here, as you guys can see. There is a little bit of a gap in here, right where this triangle tile meets this cheese slope and this wedge plate. But that's not the end of the world. That is probably the biggest gap on this entire model, I think. And the wings have just a whole bunch of 2x6 white tiles and then a little bit of color blocking at the end with the blue. And I think that looks great. There is also some blue pieces and some tires even up here as well. And then you come up top here, and we'll get to these ingot pieces in a minute, but they do move. That is intentional. And there's a lot more greebling up here with lightsaber hilts and binocular pieces again, and these classic space pieces as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And so I will just pause that for a moment for you so you guys can take a proper look at it. But as you guys can also see, these wedge plates are on hinges, matching up with these curved slopes. And then these wedge plates match up with these corner tiles, and then all the way around here. And so this also gets wider as you go back as well, which is also a really awesome thing to see. And there's even some more detailing under here as well, which also looks awesome. And these are rims for cars, and then again the tires like I had mentioned. And so let me rotate this to the back to show you guys some more details of it. All right, so coming to the back now, you can see there is more wedge plates and more angles back here. And this is really, really awesome to see. There's some ingot pieces in here, and you can see all of the detail that went into this and all of the engineering, essentially, to create the most minimal gaps possible. There is a tiny bit of a gap here, as you guys can see, but it's not the end of the world. And there is a turret back here, which is on a ball joint, which can move around. And there's enough friction in it, so it's not just going to fall down. It can actually stay up, and you can pose it however you want, which is really nice to see. And then there's some more detailing back here with these vents and the back of the engines here. And this is really, really awesome. And then we'll come down to the bottom here. These are the magnetized clips that actually attach onto the ATTEs. I'll put a picture on the screen for you so you guys can see that in universe of how this model works. But basically, these would magnetize to the middle legs of the ATTE and also the ATOT and the ATAP. Obviously, this does not work. This is not actually magnetic, but there is a mechanism under here, which is what those ingot pieces were for. So if you press this down, it primes the mechanism down here. And so then once the ATTE gets locked into place here with the cheese slope, then the mechanism will latch onto it and it will be ready to go. And you can actually pick up the dropship, and the ATTE will come with it, which is really, really awesome. One other detail about this model that's really awesome is that the wings were designed to not actually sit on the ground, but instead hover ever so slightly over them. And so that gives it a realistic look. And also the feet down here, or the magnetized areas, are actually big enough and strong enough to hold the weight of the ship on its own without needing the extra support from the wings itself. And even like I mentioned earlier, I did not build the stand for this, but if you wanted to, you could have the stand and then it would obviously sit a little bit higher. But as it is right now, it sits on the front section right here, as well as these two magnetized dishes, or magnetized in universe. And it works just fine and there's no problems. And this side also is hovering over the ground as well. So this whole thing is sitting on 3 main points of contact with the ground. And so here's a lot of that detailing from the other side now. And so as you guys can see, the minimal gapping up in the back, all of the wedge plates and the different angles, it's all the same on this side here. And there is also, I didn't point this out on the other side, but there is a tiny bit of a gap here. And that's just so that the blue triangle here can continue through. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't look the best, but you know, you have to use what you have available to you. And this 4x4 wedge plate was needed to ensure the stability of the wing, because otherwise if you start using tinier pieces, it just doesn't become as strong. And so this whole area here is pretty much identical to the other side. And it has all of the awesome detailing and greebling all throughout here. And there is also the Republic logo on this other side here as well. And this whole model does not use any stickers. There are only official Lego print pieces. These two Republic logos came from a lot of older Star Wars sets. And so I already had these in my collection, but they don't seem to be too expensive online. So that shouldn't be a problem to pick it up if you were interested in building this yourself. And then as for the cockpit detailing here, the entire module lifts off, and you can see how that's attached here with the jumper and the stud, and then all of the blue detailing in here as well. And it has a figure which is able to be removed. The figure was not part of the set. It was just something to add because I had the figure. And this whole section here is actually really, really awesome, and it can fit the figure like I just showed you. And this cockpit print here, and the cockpit print is a little bit more uncommon, but you can replace that with a different one if you don't have that. And it comes with a little joystick in there as well, which is really awesome to see. And everything in here is covered up nicely. You don't see any ugly colors like yellows or greens or purples or pinks or anything like that. And so that's a really awesome thing to see as well. And so that is pretty much it for the entire model here. This whole thing is massive and it's covered in details. And so I hope I was able to show you at least some of that here. And so this is a really, really awesome model. And so surprisingly, for a model of this size with this many pieces, the build experience was surprisingly straightforward. There wasn't too many complex building techniques, and everything went together pretty easily. You started with building the inner guts of it, and you worked your way up to the very front of the ship, and then you go back and you build kind of the undercarriage of it, and then you build each of the magnetized panels, or the feet, I guess, if you want to call it that, in the back, and then you build each of the wings, and each of them connects pretty solidly right at the end of the build experience. And it was a little annoying to fit the minifig hands into the pneumatic tubes on the fuselage here, but it is possible. It just takes a little bit of finagling to do that. The cockpit area is a tiny bit flimsy when you put that together, but once it's fully onto the model and everything is clipped in, everything seems to be a lot stronger, which is a nice thing to see. The panels under the bubble turrets are also kind of annoying to put on, but that might have just been me and how I was doing it. And then the tires up top on the engines are also a really snug fit, but again, that could just be me and the type of tires that I was using. So Brickvault themselves predict that this model will cost you anywhere from $420 to about $450 US if you were to buy every single piece. That price can vary depending on whether you buy the pieces directly from Lego through their Bricks and Pieces service or whether you buy them from Bricklink. Personally, I have a pretty substantial Lego collection, and so I was able to reduce that price all the way down to sub $200 at around $170 US, including shipping and all of that. I bought all of my pieces directly from Lego's Bricks and Pieces service. I didn't want to have to buy a bunch of pieces from different sellers and pay shipping on each of them. And when you're buying directly from Lego, if you spend more than $14 in either of their two categories, you get to waive the shipping and handling fees, which is not very hard to do when you're building a model of this size. So that was really nice. And so Lego's catalog of pieces is usually far superior to any other individual Bricklink sellers. So that was a nice bonus to be able to get all of the pieces in 1 or 2 orders from Lego. And so I bought the instructions of this as a bundle with the ATTEs. You could also buy it separately if you're not interested in the ATTE model and you only want to do this. You can do that as well. But the PDF that I was given from Brickvault after purchasing the instructions, it was very straightforward. It was very easy to put things together. It was easy to follow, and it felt like regular Lego instructions, which was a really nice thing to see, actually, that the designer took the time to actually make thorough and intuitive instructions. And it'll show you how to, as an example, it shows you how to layer plates, and it shows you the different angles that you need to properly visualize where every assembly is going. As for a couple of unique pieces, mock builders tend to use harder to find pieces or pieces that are no longer in LEGO's current inventory. And so you have to go to Bricklink, and chances are you find them used or you have to pay a premium for them, which is not ideal. But these are a couple of pieces to keep in mind that are harder to come by, at least that I found. First and foremost is the pneumatic tube on the fuselage here. The instructions say to get one long one and cutting it to the desired length. And the instructions actually do a good job of outlining that and where you're supposed to cut, which was a really nice thing to see. And then these dark red corner roof tiles, I'll put a picture on the screen for you, and I actually don't have them. You'll see that this model is missing two pieces up at the front, right above the bubble turrets. These were last seen in the 2004, 2005, 2006 era of LEGO sets, and they're not super expensive, but it is annoying to go on Bricklink and find them, because this is also at the time when brittle brown and brittle dark reds were also really common. And so that's why it's kind of hard to find those, but I can get those eventually, and I will do that. I just have to place an order for that. And then also looking at this front section, the Technic pieces in front of the cockpit in blue right here came in a number of sets back in the day, but they're not exactly common anymore. I got mine from a Bionicle set, but that was already in my collection. So if you're buying them online, you're probably better off just buying the individual pieces instead of a set. And then the 2x6 white tiles come in such a large quantity in this set. They require 53 of them, and they're not exactly hard to come by. Like, they're still in LEGO's inventory, but it does get expensive pretty quick. I personally spaced this build out over the course of 3 days, and it took about 12 hours in total to build, maybe 13, but that could have definitely been faster had I pre-sorted all of these pieces, because I just had one giant pile on my table and I just got to work, which I spent a lot of time sifting through pieces to find the piece that I was looking for the instructions. But overall, I think it was a really good build experience. All right, so I did make a few modifications to this model, nothing major, but I did have to add a 1x4 plate and a 1x4 tile to each of these, I'll call them legs, underneath the model here. I did this because I did not choose to build the stand, and so these legs are pretty much only supported by hinges and a couple cheese slopes, and so I wanted to just reinforce these and make it extra sturdy so that I did not have to worry about the model collapsing under its own weight. And so even with those very minor modifications, I'm not worried about this model getting destroyed at all. It is very sturdy, and you can move it around, and you can use the handle, you can bump the table, and you are not going to be worried about it falling apart. And so while the designer does recommend that you only lift this model by the handle, it is possible and slightly unorthodox to lift it by the belly and just grab it and hoist it up like so. And so overall, this model is really, really awesome. I absolutely love how it turned out. Yes, it is very steep in price, but I do think that that is worth it. The products that LEGO offers in this similar price range, you know, like Rivendell for $500 and other products in that $400 to $500 range, those are designed to be sets that just come straight out of the box. And while you probably would get more for your money, this is something in anyone's collection that if you had it, it would seriously stand out. And it's an eye catcher, it's a conversation starter. And this thing is just really, really massive. It looks great, and it has the building techniques and the support structure in it to really be strong and be an awesome display piece or a centerpiece to your custom clone army. And so before I wrap up the video, I just want to touch on the designer that created this. The guy's name is Boosker. He's very talented. I will put his Instagram handle in the description down below so you can check out some of his other models. But this dropship is not only compatible with an ATTE, like I've mentioned earlier, but it is also compatible with his custom ATOT. So if you really wanted to recreate that 2009 set and really modernize it with some amazing building techniques and really, really good angles, that could be the model that you choose to go with. And the model designer also has a custom ATAP. So if you're a really big fan of Revenge of the Sith and Kashyyyk and that whole battle scene, that might be the way to go for you as well. I'm actually in the process of building his custom ATTEs. I'm super excited. I'm actually almost done sourcing all of the pieces. So if that is a video that you are interested in watching, make sure to like this video and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss when that video drops. And so that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover about this model. If this is something that you are interested in checking out, be sure to check out Boosker's Instagram. I will put that in the description below, like I just mentioned. And also check out Brickvault's website. They don't only have Star Wars models, they have a bunch of other different, I'll call them themes as well. They have a bunch of different subsections on their website, so you can filter them and you can check it all out. That will be in the description for you guys if you are interested. And once again, just want to reiterate, I am by no means sponsored. I'm just a really, really big fan of custom creations that look great and are also great additions to my collection. But on that note, that is going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what I did with this style of review, make sure to like the video and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. If you guys have any feedback for me on this style of review, and if you want to see those custom ATTEs and a custom clone-based mock that I am currently working out the kinks on, make sure to drop a comment down below. And once again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.